Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Career Catalyst webinar. I'll just let a few more people trickle in. It's very exciting to be here today. We've got some amazing speakers and conversation lined up around building employability skills in Victoria. We've got Yousef from GradShip here today, and we've got Dom, our co-founder. So yeah, would you like to... Yeah, just get this up. Beautiful. So welcome to another Outcome.Life and Study Melbourne Career Catalyst webinar. We're going to be talking about building employability skills, what next steps you can take to make yourself more employable, and where you can go to access more help to help you do all of those things. Today's Career Catalyst webinar is brought to you by Study Melbourne and Outcome.Life as part of our free Career Catalyst program for international students in Victoria. So make sure you check out some of the other free services you can access after our webinar today. I'm Anya Goodhart. I'm the marketing manager here at Outcome.Life, a business set up 5 years ago with the specific purpose of bridging the employment gap and improving employability for outcomes for all students, but particularly international students who are so close to our heart. I'm very excited to be joined by Dom, co-founder of Outcome.Life, and Yousef Shadid, founder of GradShip. So it's so wonderful to have you here, Yousef. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for the introduction, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. So my name is Yousef. I started GradShip about last year, come from a HR background, so mainly consulting, professional services, that sort of thing. You know, GradShip very much aligned to what we're trying to do today, which is employability, everything that makes a graduate employable. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And you were an international student yourself before all of this as well, weren't you, Yousef?
Actually, it wasn't. Just
a
while ago. But obviously, seeing what's happened, you know, international students have been the focus for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what do you think are some of the most fundamental steps just to get started that an international student can take, you know, right now to become employable?
I mean, that's a big question.
That is a big question.
There's a lot of there are a lot of small actions that really yield results long term, and the reality is students, being international or not, would only start these actions upon their graduation, right? And that's the thing, obviously, we've been trying to push is that your journey to employability, to find a job, to your transferable skills actually start much earlier, as soon as you leave high school, even before. So starting early is key. Now, of course, I understand probably not everyone here will be a first or second year student. If anything, most people will be either wrapping up their studies or already finished, right? And I was no different, I understand that. But reality is the earlier you start this process, the better for you. So start early, definitely. Focus on transferable skills, not on things you particularly studied or courses, right? The reality is you're going to do, if you're in business, you're going to do 32 units, 36, 40 units. In the workplace, you're probably going to use one or two if they're really technical. The reality is you're going to use a lot more soft skills, communication, teamwork, being proactive. So focus more on these skills during your campus. Now, I understand we're in a pandemic and not everyone's going on campus. That's why sessions like this one, being involved, knowing what's going on, networking with your colleagues really helps. So I guess not only starting early, but focusing on the transferable skills. I would particularly single out networking as the most important skill here, because to network obviously is to find someone who's useful for you. And it's not about sort of, you know, knowing someone who can get you a job. You got to understand this is a long-term process. You're not going to find a job from the first person you meet. But more students here, you know, probably everyone here would have Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram or LinkedIn, right? But no one has actually activated their current network. So a lot of graduates come to us and say, I don't know many people. No, you actually know many people. You just haven't activated these networks. You haven't thought in terms of quality and quantity networking. So start reaching out to people already in your network, right? And not reaching out with the expectation, I'm going to ask for a job straight away. So understand this is a long-term process. Of course, there's, you know, a lot of things we can say about networking, especially on LinkedIn, but I would single out networking as a really important skill for graduates to increase their employability.
That's a great start. I think you've already made Dom very happy. I think networking and LinkedIn is one of his favorite things to talk about.
And the main one for me, and I'm glad that, you know, someone else is finally saying it, Yousef, not just me, but you need to start early. And those people who know me know I've got a couple of kids in university at the moment, and I make them go to at least one networking event, whether it's in person or online, every week. Like, this is their job. It's their job as a student to go to at least one networking event every week. And their goal at that networking event is to connect with at least 3 significant people. And I love to use LinkedIn, and I've forced them kicking and screaming to get on LinkedIn. And they're using it now, and they're building their networks. And, you know, if you do 3 a week for 40 weeks, you're going to end up with 120 people, if my math is right, by the end of the year that are significant. And, you know, every one of those people that are significant could be the person that asks you whether or not you would like to go for a job with them. So I love to hear you saying it, because I think it is very true.
Absolutely. And yeah, to that point, I think a lot of what we've been told at university is about, you know, traditional advice, you know, study hard, get good grades, get a job, which is true. You know, getting good grades would definitely help, but it's only one thing in the scheme of things, right? So you need to be a good communicator. You need to know key decision makers. You need to know how to write a resume. You need to know how to have a good LinkedIn profile. You need to know how to interview well. All of these skills enhance your employability. It's not a single action, get good grades, get a job, because it's not as simple. Otherwise, we wouldn't be, you know, talking about employability, because employability is a lot more than a single thing. But yeah, to that point, yeah, it's the networking probably that really stands out.
And Yousef, how much harder is it to try and help a student that didn't do these things whilst they were studying, that they left it until they graduated to get on LinkedIn, to build a network? Like, how much harder is it?
It is harder, definitely. Now, the thing is, because as you know, I mentioned earlier, like, this is a long-term process. It's not like I graduated, within a month, I'm going to know key decision makers, I'm going to build really good relationship with them, I'm going to get a job, right? It doesn't work this way. Otherwise, every graduate would get a job straight away. Reality is, it's a long-term process. The earlier you started, the better for you. Now, it's harder, it's not impossible, because obviously people still get jobs 6 months after graduation, year after graduation, but the earlier you start, definitely the better for you. So, of course, just make your life easy. Understand that everyone here would probably be in this position where they started early, but make a start. Like, just start today. If you don't have a good LinkedIn, have a good LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of free resources you can use. There's a lot of things you can do right now to actually accelerate that program. It doesn't mean if you haven't done it for the last 3 years, you can't do it now. Just make a start.
Well, let's break it down for the listeners, because I think this is really, really important. LinkedIn. Tell us a few fundamentals on LinkedIn that students need to be doing right now to make sure that they get noticed on LinkedIn.
Fundamentals, have a LinkedIn, obviously. Now, if you don't have a LinkedIn as a student watching this, just start a profile. It's free, it takes a few minutes just to have a basic profile, right? Fundamental, have a professional photo. That is fundamental. There's no way around it, right? Don't yourself, yeah.
And so professional photo doesn't mean you in your graduation gown at your bachelor's with that stupid hat.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this is a really common mistake I'm seeing a lot of graduates. That's not professional. Just pretty much saying, I'm desperate for a job. You gotta be, you just present yourself in a professional way. And, you know, being professional doesn't mean like, now in lockdown, I don't have access to a professional photographer. iPhone, like, just portrait mode, you know, focus, good lighting. That's a professional shot.
And just your face.
Absolutely. Just your face and the tip of shoulders. No need for your whole body and everything, you know.
Love it.
It's always going to be that small icon. The more you show of your face, obviously not really close, but, you know, a bit of common sense. Don't overthink it, but you can actually take a really decent shot with your phone right now, from your flatmate, from, you know, even a stand you can put on timer. Like, you know, everyone is well aware of these tricks. So professional shot makes a difference, yeah. And
another one for me, perhaps the number one for me, other than a photo, not a stupid photo, well, a couple of things. Make sure that you have ticked that everything that you've got, all your details are visible, because people turn them down. You want to get noticed. So you do not want to have all the visibility stuff turned off. The next one is the title. And so please, and I see this all the time, every single time that you do something on LinkedIn, it will show your name and your title. People are not employing student at RMIT. They're just not. So your title needs to be what it is that your professional career is going to be. So if you're studying to be a mechanical engineer, put mechanical engineer, because then people get an idea of what you're about. Really, really important. And thank you, Leonie. Leonie's just posted in the chat where you can go and register for the LinkedIn webinar that I run. It's an hour long. It's free. Anyone can join. I'm extremely funny. Come along and I will teach you how to get a really good LinkedIn profile. So they're the basics. Make sure that you're on there. Everything is visible. Another one is people don't put their contact details in the contact info. What are they thinking? Like, if people go to my LinkedIn, they'll see even my mobile number is there. And I own a number of businesses. I'm very busy, but I have my contact number there. You got to make it as easy as possible for future employers and recruiters to contact you. Very important.
Yeah, that's a key aspect you just mentioned. Make it as easy as possible. Recruiters are going through hundreds of profiles, right? Of course, your profile has to stand out. No one's going to employ a student, or, you know, I see people saying looking for a job in their tagline. Like, that doesn't really bring any value, doesn't really tell me what you're looking for, what the value is, what did you study. So just make it easy for them. Mention those key aspects, key factors about what you studied. Photo, tagline, obviously. One thing that's probably not as mentioned a lot is cover photo, right? This is a free branding tool for yourself, right? So someone clicks on your profile, they can easily see what you're on about if you just use a cover photo that's relevant. There's hundreds of free to use sources. If you're in accounting, if you're in finance, if you're in engineering, just put something relevant. So as soon as I open the profile, I understand exactly what field you're in. Just make it easier. Yeah.
So Yousef, what you're talking about is behind the profile photo, there is like a banner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make sure that you use that, not keep it the generic grey thing that LinkedIn give you. Put something in that's relevant.
Absolutely. And to that point, it also shows that you know what you're doing as opposed to someone who just made a profile. So adds to your credibility as well. So it's not only that it tells me what you're doing, it adds to your credibility that you're not someone who just started on LinkedIn, right?
Fantastic. And so a lot of people say, should I be including my uni job, which may be working at McDonald's, working in a bar? What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is include anything that's transferable, right? So uni job, definitely. If you're a graduate with no experience, like no one's expecting to have 10 years experience, right? And if they are, you probably don't want to work for them. But if you just graduated, you don't have a whole lot of experience, retail, hospitality, casual jobs, all teach you those transferable skills, communicating, working in a team, serving clients or customers. So definitely include them, and don't just include them as a title, worked at McDonald's or worked at Kmart or Woolies. Speak about what you've done, right? Like put it in dot point format, makes it really easy for someone to read. Like, okay, that person has done some work experience, understand exactly what value they bring if I was to employ them, not just a title, right?
Yeah, that's good advice. And when I was doing recruitment for Picture Partners, where I worked for nearly 10 years of my life, we would actually look for people who had hospitality jobs. And the number one reason for that is that they had to deal with the most difficult people on the planet. And that is people who eat McDonald's and things like that. So, you know, don't think that your hospitality job in particular, any job where you're dealing with people is irrelevant. It's extremely relevant, because someone that's done 6 months or a year working at Macca's or Hungry Jack's or, you know, one of these places, even making cappuccinos, they will have had to have dealt with those very difficult people. And it takes time to learn how to deal with them. And you would be very
stakeholder management, you know, dealing, resilience, all, you know, required skills, you know,
being in processes,
situations, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Problem solving, yeah.
Now, networking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on networking if we ever get released ever again, because, you know, it seems as though we're locked up in our houses forever.
Yeah.
And so there is networking online. We'll talk about that in a minute. But networking, tell us, why is it so important that that students at university go to lots of industry networking events during their studies?
It's extremely important because your most valuable asset basically is your network, right? Your skills are important, your experience are important. If you don't have the right network, you're not putting yourself in the right opportunity, you are really limited in how far you can go. So That's why it's important. But what people often forget about is both quantity and quality matters, right? It's not one of those things, I have 1,000 friends on Facebook, I have a big network. Like, do you actually have a quality network? Would you congratulate them on something? Would you reach out if they need to? Would you ask them for a favor, right? That determines the quality of your network. Is your network a quality one, right? So it's really important. That's why we mentioned is that start earlier, because it does take time to build and you need to start early. So to give you an example, if I was to do, like, I don't know anything about web design and websites, right? So just put something in a group, where probably 200 people, I only had a friend who does it. And then a friend of a friend recommended me. Through that referral, I got a big discount, right? And that's just a simple example that you can do. When you have a big network, you can do more. Simple as that. For a job, same thing, right? When you see a job ad on LinkedIn, you see the person, might be a second degree connection. That's already a good start. You have someone mutual connection with. So when you reach out to them, that gives you more reasons to reach out. And that person is more willing to respond because they've seen you, connected with that mutual connection. So that's why it's important, because you're able to do more things in a big network.
And so when you turn up to one of these networking events, I know it can be a little bit intimidating. There's lots of older people in the room and they are experts at what they do. So you're right to feel intimidated. What's your advice to people on how to actually approach people and introduce themselves? Because I think that's something that a lot of students do struggle with.
Sure. So one thing that's always an area of struggle for many students is they feel like they're a burden, right? So they feel like, I shouldn't be here because everyone here is an expert. Exactly what you said about being intimidated. To counter that, basically, when you approach someone, remember that person is a human, right? So really as simple as that person is a human. Hey, how are you going? Just a simple chat. Now, the two things can happen, right? They might just don't reciprocate the same friendliness. Yeah, I'm good, thanks, and that's it. Then you lost nothing, right? You just keep going, you'll do more. Or they can reciprocate that, and that creates a networking opportunity. So two ways. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become. The second thing I see a lot of students struggle with is they go for the ask directly, right? And that's online in messages, and that's in person when they introduce themselves. Hey, I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm looking for jobs, right? That's not something that I would be interested in when I first meet you, right? Think about it very similar to dating. When you are seeing someone, you're not gonna go, hey, marry me from the first time. Obviously, it's a process to get to know them. So same with any networking, any connection. You need to establish that trust, that person feels comfortable with you, and then you can later on ask for catch-ups and ask for opportunities and take it from there. So remember that it's a long-term thing. Going to a networking event wouldn't give you immediate results always, but it will always give you results later down the track. So, yeah.
Good advice. Another thing too that I certainly recommend for students is that I will always target the people in the room who are not speaking to anyone. And we all have felt this. We've gone to a networking event, no one's talking to us. We're standing around thinking, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Well, do someone a favor, go up to them and just say, hi, my name's Dom. What brings you here tonight? And the person is most likely just to start rabbiting on. You'll be lucky to shut them up. And that gives you time to formulate in your mind, what intelligent conversation can you have with this person that is going to lead to you connecting with them. Absolutely. And then after you've chatted for 5 or 10 minutes, that's when you say, hey, do you mind if I connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Always a good strategy.
Also, yeah, making references to existing conditions in the environment, that's always an easy one. So someone just spoke, what would you, that was interesting, right? Or you just came to a new event. How did you hear about Outcome.Life, right? Or is this your first time here? Or who do you know here? Or food is pretty good, right? Just making reference to something that's clear in the environment. And obviously now COVID, right? So it's like, I'm so over lockdowns, for example, right? Yes. Everyone's human, everyone likes to reciprocate that value when you're giving them something to work with. So make references to these and it makes it easier for you to approach.
Yeah, and why this is really important too is that, and this is what I say to my kids and why I want them to go to networking events. And that is that this is fantastic practice for how to conduct yourself in an interview. Because people say, can I do interview training? A networking event is interview training. You have to build rapport with people. Someone that you've never met before. You have to have an intelligent conversation with someone. This is the best training you can possibly do, and it's free. And at most of these events, you get beer and you get food, so that's a good thing. So you almost get paid for going, and you get to train yourself, and you'll get experience for an interview. There's no course on the planet that you can do that's going to train you for an interview better than going to multiple networking events throughout your university and getting used to speaking with people, especially older people, and having an intelligent conversation with them.
So I think you've already got a really good base already. I think what we talked about of you can start early, start where you are right now, go to people. I love your thing, Yousef, of start with who you know.
Yeah.
Go on LinkedIn, set up your profile. There are lots of different, courses you can do to make sure you have a good profile set up. And Yousef and Dom have already thrown out a lot of amazing basics of just setting up a good LinkedIn profile. Go connect with everyone, your teachers, your, whoever you know. Leonie has chucked our LinkedIn links in the chat. So connect with us on LinkedIn. But as Dom would always say, remember to send a note. So when you go to connect with someone on LinkedIn, it'll give you the option to add a personalization, which you always want to do because people are busy. We have bad memories. We forget who is who. So just send us a note, go connect with Yousef on LinkedIn and say, hey, Yousef, I loved your webinar today with Career Catalyst. You were an amazing speaker. Would love to stay connected. It's very simple, very easy. And it ties into what Yousef was talking about of always find those common human connections just to get you started.
Absolutely. And to that point, obviously you guys do this and we do this multiple times at webinars and online forums. And I'm always surprised how people don't take that simple action. It's as simple as, great chat, would love to get to know you, or would love to connect, right? It's just one liner, it's really a simple action. But I'm talking about sessions that we have 300, 400 people and you get 2-3 requests, right? I'm willing to help. I would love to go out of my way to help these people because they actually reach out. They've taken that step. So it really makes a difference. I just want to touch on your point earlier about when you make a profile and connect with people activate your current network. So one thing I've done last year, this is mostly for younger students, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, WhatsApp groups, Facebook. You already have so many friends. Of course, not all of them are your best friends, but these are people you met in real life and people you know. Simple, copy, paste your name on LinkedIn and connect. That's going to get you up to 200 connections, 300 easily, right? These are people you know in different fields, different cities now, different countries. It's such an easy action for you to start from a strong base, right? And then from there, you can expand. So don't start with, I don't know anyone. No, you actually know a lot of people in real life. You just haven't activated that network yet on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
love that. I think that's a great insight. So what are some of the other things, as part of, founding GradShip and all the other amazing things you're doing, Yousef, networks, I think is a really important one, and getting that LinkedIn profile as a method to getting that good network. What are some of the other basic things that you think that people should know about with building up their employability skills?
So I guess that also ties to networking, but more about when you speak about yourself, right? So when someone says, oh, hey, Yousef, how you going? What do you do, right? So I could say, hey, I'm an employability consultant, or I could speak about myself in terms of what value I add to others. So I help students and graduates with their employability. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you can say I'm a mechanical engineer, or I help companies automate their processes, for example, right? Or in finance, I help companies make better informed decisions. That already signals that you're providing value to the other person. So speak about yourself in terms of the problem you solve and what value you bring versus going for the ask. Also with the networking, you already mentioned it, but you can see it also in the resume. When people write the resumes or the cover letter, you can sort of see it from the language. I am seeking, I am looking, this, or I am an experienced, or I have such and such experience in. So they speak about the value and then they're looking for something. It really makes a difference when you speak about yourself, what value you bring, and then you speak about your job ask versus the other way. So always think about, why would this person engage with me? Try to give them an easy reason to engage with you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we've already talked a little bit about all those awesome transferable skills, or I guess soft skills that we talked about with networking, and how networking is great practice for building up your interview skills as well. There's also some amazing, interview workshops you can do. We offer one, and I think that you guys at GradShip also offer an interview workshop as well to build up your interview skills. What about technical skills? There are so many industries where there's across a range of industries, there are just technologies that are fantastic to use, like Google Workspace, Zoom, Slack, but there's also industry specific software tools that are really easy wins, I guess, for students, that if they know that, they can just sort of jump in and distinguish themselves from other people. What do you think about some of that, Yousef?
Absolutely. I guess it's never been easier to learn anything technical now. It's really never has been easier. You can LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, Coursera, YouTube videos, so many courses that are really good, right? A simple Google search will get you a lot of courses. Some of them are lengthy, some of them are not, but they really teach you the basics, and having the basics really makes you stand out. So if I want to single out something, right, Microsoft Office. So everyone has used Word to some capacity in their university. Not everyone has used Microsoft Excel, but it's so important, for example, right? That's such an important software to use. You don't have to be an Excel guru with all the programming. Just get to know the basics, and you can learn them in your own time, and you don't need a lot of experience to learn them. You can learn them at your own pace. You can add it to your resume. In the interview, you can speak about your level of competence. These are simple actions that really enhance your employability in technical, right? And almost everything except certain, things that are only uni-based. Most of these technologies you can teach yourself. You don't really need to say, I don't know how to use this, and then you're just putting a limit on yourself. Learn that skill, Google it, have a couple of courses, look for a mentor, ask someone in the industry. It's such an easy conversation once you actually start the process. So definitely technical skills help. But reality is students always focus on what they don't have versus what they have. So I don't have experience. I don't have technical skills. I don't have an internship. I don't have a visa. But you have all of these other things that work in your favor for employability, right? One thing I would want to mention about, not exactly technical skills, but about the approach to jobs. A lot of students are very narrow in their scope, meaning they only look for the big companies. I just want to work for this company. Just want to work for this company. And they're missing out on literally thousands of opportunities with small and medium employers, where not only it's easier for them to get in being an international student, but also they would actually learn a lot more and get more exposure. Now, of course, not all of these are advertised. You might want to do more homework, but the competition is a lot less for these companies. So just broaden your scope of work. Don't always focus on the big companies. Look for other employers, medium, small, and you will have a better chance in your applications as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I just saw a question in the chat about, are there particular certificate courses or software courses to help get a job? We've just sort of talked about, there's definitely lots of things you can do. If there's a particular software that you want to learn, in fact, a lot of places have really good native things. For example, if you want to learn Slack, if you go to Slack have a course already set up for you to learn how to use Slack. If you want to use HubSpot because you're a marketer, HubSpot has a whole academy of free courses to help you use it. So a lot of the time you can go to the actual software, and they're the best experts on their own software. They'll have free information on how you can use it because they want you to use it. But I think, based on some of the stuff you've been saying, Yousef, this is also a really good opportunity to tap into your network and also leverage and practice all your soft skills as well, because you should ask people in the industry about what kind of software courses you can do. And you can make that a post on LinkedIn going, hi, I'm wanting to learn more about how to develop these sorts of skills. Do you guys have recommendations of places I can go? So you can do it and make it, sort of tap into both of those things.
Absolutely. And to that point, you can just work, start from the end. So look at the job ad, look at what softwares they need. And then you realize, okay, maybe I don't have all of these softwares, but I can learn this and this, right? So now you already know what softwares to target and focus your energy in. Just look at the job you're after versus I want any job. Just be more tailored and targeted in your approach.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And before I forget as well, I found a fantastic tip the other day with LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning does have some free courses, but a lot of it they have for paid LinkedIn profiles. You don't need the paid LinkedIn profile. All the benefits are in the free version of LinkedIn. However, if you do want to look at any of the LinkedIn Learning, I found that a lot of libraries have paid LinkedIn things for you. So you can access LinkedIn Learning for free through your library. So there's a tip I learned the other day if you're wanting to access any of those things. But I think, you know, to your point, Yousef, there's some really great ways you can go and learn some great technical skills, but it is always really easy to learn technical skills. You know, even if you're a CTO or a marketing, even if you've done a lot of experience, there'll always be more software that you can learn. It's very easy to learn more software. And so I think you guys need to make sure as well that you are really focusing on some of those soft skills. And I'd love to focus more on what you said, Yousef, about how you talk about yourself and how you present yourself, because I think you're right that a lot of students do feel self-conscious about all the things they don't have. So how do they present themselves as, you know, experts or as, you know, people who can do certain skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So how they can present themselves is focus on what you have. So think about employability as a wider thing. You need to be a good networker, good interview skills, good communication skills, good technical skills. Grades could be one of them, right? Although I'm not a big fan of this. A degree, a visa in some instances. All of these, you probably have 10 or 12 things. You are gonna automatically think about, oh, I don't have one or two things versus, oh, I actually have 10 things that work in my favor, right? So whenever you see graduates or positions being advertised, look at what's actually required to do this job and work backwards. Focus on what you have versus what you don't have. So yeah, basically just keep it that way. And of course, having a good resume, having a good cover letter, having a LinkedIn, there's no way around it. You got to be able to interview well. You got to be able to present yourself well. Good, you know, all of these things that come with practice, but you have to start the process, right? Saying I don't know, or I don't have many connections is not going to get you anywhere. You actually have to start the process and working on employability.
I think it's a bit of a different way of thinking as well that you have to tap into, of looking at the skills you have, and some of the skills and the experience you have, you might not even think of experience. We already talked about, you know, do you put McDonald's or Uber driving or something on LinkedIn? And yes, that's experience. It doesn't matter if it's not in your industry, because when you start thinking about employability and the skills and the experience that you have, you're going, yeah, I was an Uber driver. I practiced, you know, customer service, I practice time management. You know, you can start to look at all the different skills and experience that underlie the experiences you already have. But I know we've got a lot of questions coming in through the Q&A, so I'd love to answer some of these. Pavan asked, why are organizations not willing to sponsor skilled individuals while there is a high shortage in the market? It's a big question. What do you think, Yousef and Dom?
Well, I guess that's up to the organization. That's more of an industry push, right? So a lot of bigger organizations they perceive that as a risky candidate, so wouldn't want to invest in these candidates. Obviously, we now know that there are a lot of high-skilled candidates that really would do a great job, but that's a perceived perception. It's going to take years, a lot of government intervention. You can wish for a perfect world, but you got to deal with what's happening now and try to work on that, basically. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of ways around it. And Pravan, I'm really glad you asked this question, and we get this a lot. And that is that big organisations, especially that have HR departments, are not usually international students' friends. And they've got these policies, which I believe is unlawful, although that might be a little controversial for me to say it. But they have these policies saying that we're not going to take on internationals, or we're not going to sponsor people. But here's how you get around it. And Yousef mentioned it earlier. Don't focus on the big organisations. Go for the small to medium organisations that struggle to get good talent. They are going to be very, very international student friendly. And so they're the ones to target. And if it is that you do want to work for a big company one day, then make it a two-step process. Go and work for a smaller company for a couple of years. And then you can make the transition across, perhaps even when you get your PR. But another way that we do, and of course at Outcome.Life, we do internships. We place, a couple of thousand students into internships each year. And what we find is that doing an internship, and whether you do it through your university or through our program, it doesn't matter. Once you get into these companies and you show them your value, their propensity for them to sponsor you is then much, much higher. I know that ourselves, I own a software company, we've got about 18 staff, There was a terrific young man from Colombia who came, and he was going to have to go back to his own country. He couldn't get PR in time. So we did sponsor him. Now, it cost us a lot of money. It cost us $8,000, I think, in legal fees. But he was such a valuable employee now because he did his internship. We converted it to full-time employment, couldn't get his PR. We ended up sponsoring him. So that way he could stay here. And so therefore, it's going to be very difficult, Pravin, to find a company that straight off the bat, without seeing what you can do, is going to sponsor you. But if you have this approach of showing what you can do, I'm telling you now, there's no business on the planet that would get rid of their best employee. And so hence, it will just take a little bit longer, but fantastic question. Hopefully that answered it for you.
Yeah, we've also got some other awesome questions coming down. So Rahul is asking, so he said he's done the basics of LinkedIn profile building after attending a few workshops. He's now started creating content to acquire more followers, writing blogs, articles, posts with my own creative visuals about business analytics and personal life experiences. Just before I continue, Rahul, awesome. You are doing all the right things. Well done. This is amazing. This is what all of you guys should be doing. What can someone like me do to take the networking process to the next level by being a content creator?
Mate, he's doing it now. How beautifully written is that? Like, seriously, that is a beautifully written piece. What I would suggest you do, Rahul, is just start coming up with stuff like that and putting it on LinkedIn and all these other blogs, and then connecting with all the people that react. And Anya said it earlier. She said, even posting a question like, what is the most contemporary software to use in my space? What tools can be used to create content? You will get people flood that post. And then you start talking with each of them and ask to connect with each of them. And before you know it, people will start offering you jobs. And I say that seriously because we have many, many of the interns that we deal with that by doing this were offered multiple jobs within months of being very, very active on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And to that point, I want to add, people love to help. People really love to help. If you ask for help, people would love to help. They don't like to feel you're taking advantage of them. So that reflects also when you're connecting to someone you haven't met in real life, right? Obviously, you got to make sure that you have a lot of things in common first, right? Second-degree connection, similar industry. But more importantly, in your request, just message to connect, don't message to ask for a job yet. You don't know that person, right? Once you message to connect and they see your content, obviously, as Dom said, they're a lot more likely to engage, to help you out, to offer you internships and work in the future. So always frame it around, I want to establish a genuine connection, and then you can take it to the next level.
Absolutely. All right, we've got another question from Kashan. How can we take advantage to join the agencies that trained us and use their contacts in the industry to get a job?
So if I understand the question, it's about if I was trained by an agency, in this case, I guess an Outcome.Life or something similar, and then use their contacts to industries to get a job. It really depends on your position. Are you in an industry that the agency works in a lot? You can LinkedIn. I really would resort back to LinkedIn, right? So filtering for people who've done similar program, asking about who's done it before you, asking your boss if you know anyone who would recommend me, asking for recommendation on LinkedIn, asking for endorsements. You're using all of these resources, assuming obviously you've done a good job, but you cap on that. Just keep the conversation, be proactive in the steps you take, and don't wait till you finish the 4-month internship or 3 months or whatever it is. Be active from the first day, right? Is there something similar in the industry? Is there another company did you have a similar graduate? Asking more questions early on, you can leverage off those networks. But I'm sure Don would have more to say about it.
Yeah, you saw actually Yousef's hesitation, and the issue is because they're training so many people, it's actually really hard for them to help you find a job through their networks simply because of the volume of people. And so I would do as what Yousef suggested and take all that information and knowledge and then go to another platform and another networking event and then use what you've learned and what you know now to connect with other people. And this is a big thing and probably answers the question that Mia asked earlier, originally in the chat and then posted it. And that is, how do we network now that we're in the lockdown scenario? There are still lots and lots and lots of events online. And go to meetup.com and eventbrite.com.au. Find industry events that interest you, register, go along, take this knowledge that you have and ask people questions. Like, for example, if you're a project manager and you meet someone, a simple question like, oh, tell me, what project management tool do you use? Now, the #1 project management tool on the planet is Microsoft Project, right? But it's expensive. And a lot of people are moving away from it because not only is it expensive, it's actually difficult to use. It's extremely comprehensive. And so you might follow it up because you've just learned Airtable, or you've used Asana, or you're using something else. And this is what Yousef and I are talking about today. And that is that we need you to develop the art and the skill of running a conversation with someone, an intelligent conversation. And often it's more about asking questions than speaking. Asking people open questions and getting their opinion empowers them. And so by saying to Yousef, you know, tell me about, you know, the best software that you think a graduate should know in order to make themselves employable, that's the way to build rapport with him and get a job, rather than saying, Yousef, can you please give me a job?
Absolutely, 100%, yeah. People love it when they feel like their advice is appreciated versus when you're taking advantage of them. Absolutely.
Now, I'm just about to post in the chat how I would connect with Yousef on LinkedIn. Remember how we said before, make sure you send a note? It's really important that when you hit the connect button on your PC, it will pop up and say add a note. You do not need to use the in-mail feature. This is what I'm talking about. I would say something like, so I've hit the connect button, it says add a note. I then hit add a note. I would say, hi, Yousef, thank him for something. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge in the Career Catalyst Employability webinar today. Would love to connect with you. And then I hit too early and perhaps explore ways that we can help each other. So you've introduced yourself. You've told him where you've met. You've thanked him for something. If Yousef then did not connect with you, that would be really rude. And I know that Yousef is not a rude guy. So therefore, I'm guaranteed of getting a connection. But if you're like the 20 people that just push the connect button and then do nothing, I just think you're trying to flog me something I don't want. And therefore, I'm probably not going to connect with you. So mega, mega, mega important that whenever you do connect with someone, send a note. It's a little bit tougher on your mobile phone. You got to hit, when you hit connect, there's the 3 little dots. You got to click that and it's personal invite, I think. That's where you got to write it, but don't miss that opportunity.
Agree. And like Dom demonstrated as well, always proofread your note before you send it as well.
It shows that I'm human, Anya. Like, it shows that I'm not perfect. So that's my very cunning.
Oh yeah. I'm very litigious. I came from a professional writing background, and bad grammar really annoys me. But everyone's different.
I speak 7 different languages. Unfortunately, none of them are English.
Yeah, and just on the networking, I want to add on being involved. Like, honestly, most of the work I started last year, most of the work that GradShip started has been enabled by platforms like LinkedIn and websites and connections, right? So, for example, I've never met Dom in real life, never met Anya, but we're able to do this because of the power of these connections and these tools. So you will need to frame your mind that no, we're in lockdown doesn't mean that we're limited. We actually have a lot of opportunity. We just haven't taken that yet. So every time you're trying to connect and you're not sure to connect with someone, as Dom said, like, you know, make it personal, add a note. What's the worst that can happen? They don't respond. So one less connection you never had, just keep going. Like, there's so many, there's 14 million, I believe, LinkedIn users in Australia. So unlimited opportunity, unlimited. There's hundreds and hundreds of people waiting for you to connect with them with valuable information. So don't waste that. Right?
And as Anya said earlier, it is a mindset. And what Yousef is talking about and what I'm talking about today, it's we need you to change your mindset. Yousef has said it actually 3 or 4 times now. Don't concentrate on what you don't have. Concentrate on what you do have and what you can control. And here I'm going to give you the greatest tip that you are ever going to get other than sending a note. okay? Every time you meet someone in Australia, especially if they're old and relatively ugly like me, that is the interview. I kid you not, it is the interview. Anya, how many people have I recruited across my several businesses that I met at a networking event?
Oh, lots, Dom. We've got our amazing lead of our software team you recruited at a networking event. We've had lots of people that, Dom's picked up off the streets because they were just made such a great impression.
There was even a young lady called Vinty who, she won't admit this, but she was actually sending us a note to complain that we weren't doing as much work in New South Wales as we do in Victoria. But, anyway, her complaint got her a job because she did it very politely and very articulately and actually suggested a couple of suggestions. And from that, our COO, Steph, got on a Zoom call with her immediately to discuss what she was suggesting we should be doing. During that Zoom call, I got an invite to join the Zoom call, which I did. That was the interview. And that is easily what happens at a networking event face-to-face. That is the interview. I kid you not, because it's so much easier to recruit people that you've met and you've had a conversation with and that you've been able to, see their body language and how they react. Remember that businesses are recruiting people that hopefully fit in with their team and that can deal with their customers. You can't tell that from a resume. No one gets a job with a resume. And all you people out there, and I dare say there's a few that would admit, who has sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications for jobs online and not even received a reply? Me. I was a recruiter. I had a recruitment company for 14 years. If I put an advertisement up on, say, Seek, I would get 200 to 300 applications a day. After a couple of days, I'd have to take the ad down. How on earth am I going to be able to read 500 applications? I'm not. And what I would do every time is go back to the person I met at the networking event last Thursday night, because they were a terrific person, very personable. That's how the world works. So remember, every time you go to a networking event and meet someone, even online, because this is where most people do their recruitment these days, that's the interview. Do you agree, Yousef?
100%. People love to connect on a human level, and the spray and pray approach, which you just described, applying for hundreds of resumes, is not going to get anywhere. So that's why LinkedIn specifically is important. That's why connecting with someone in real life or on Zoom is extremely important, because if I've met you in person, I've had a conversation with you, I'm a lot more likely to trust you with anything I want to do. So that's definitely important.
And Rahul, we just put in the chat, you asked the question, how can you find out events, how can you find out information about events that you can go to? We just put a couple there, meetup.com and eventbrite.com. But remember that there's also industry organisations. And here's a little bit of a tip too. And that is that if you're an accountant, don't just go to accounting events. There's too many accountants there. There's too many competition. If there's an industry that you really enjoy, such as maybe horse racing or fashion or, I don't know, whatever the industry is, go to those events, because chances are you'll be the only accountants there looking for a graduate job. I remember that there was a fantastic networking group called something like Fashion IT or something. And this was 30, 40 people who owned fashion businesses that would get together once a month to talk about how they can bring IT into their fashion businesses to make it better. I remember that one month there was a lady that her business was 3D printing women's shoes. Imagine that. So you put your foot size in, select your style, bang, would 3D print a pair of shoes that you can walk out in. Who would not want to work there? What a great place to work. She needs accountants, she needs project managers, she needs dev people, she needs marketers, all sorts of people. So don't just concentrate on industry events in your area that you've studied. Look for other industries that employ people like you. And Anya, good example is you. Every business needs marketing people because they actually make people money rather than cost them money.
That's true. Marketing is a very big one right now. So there are always places where you can cross skill as well. For example, data is becoming, Dom likes to say this a lot, data is a huge thing right now. So you can do data in marketing, you can do data in, software. There's lots of different skills you can have. And again, like Yousef was saying, it's changing your mindset and the way you're thinking about it. And you might find that you already have some skills that are very needed, that are very competitive, and you can position yourself different from anyone else in your industry by bringing a skill to that field that no one else is promoting right now.
Yeah. There's two bits of software that I think every single person, it does not matter what you're studying, is extremely important. Yousef's mentioned one of them already, which is Microsoft Excel, or I prefer actually Google Sheets. You need to know both. In fact, I have banned Microsoft. I can't stand it because I never know whether the version is correct. At least with a Google Sheet,
yeah,
you can share it with me and I know I've got the latest version. So if someone sends me an Excel file, I'm not even going to look at it. I'll say, convert it to a Google Sheet and then send it to me. The second one is Tableau, okay? And Anya mentioned it. If the last 10 years was about social and about mobile, the next 10 years is about data and automation. And the number one data visualization tool on the planet at the moment is Tableau. I would suggest that every single student goes and learns Tableau on their own, or Power BI, that's the open source free one, but that is the one that everyone loves. If you go to an interview as an accountant, as an engineer, as a psychologist, I had the other day, and you can bring into the conversation that you've bothered to go and learn data because data is the future, I will guarantee that you will get the job over the person who's waiting outside to go in after you for the interview. So anyway.
Yeah, we've got a question from Serena. Thank you, Serena. Who says she's currently doing her remote internship and wanting to know how she can become more familiar and comfortable with the company's environment and staff, as obviously in remote, you don't always have the same kind of interaction. So what are some ways that she can, network within that remote space? Yousef, Dom?
Yes.
So many. Go, Yousef.
Yeah, I just said basically, because you're doing work remotely, you're going to have meetings, right? So why don't you just join the meeting 5 minutes early, stay 2 minutes later, have a friendly chat with that person. Don't make it just for business. Just like you're busy with your day and you would appreciate that human interaction, they would do the same. So having that conversation before or after the meeting really makes a difference. Another avenue is the internal company directory, right? So don't just be constrained with the project team that you're working on. Reach out to people outside your project, and that's going to help you as well, knowing about the other parts of the business you're in. And of course, LinkedIn is always there, so you can always find people from your company on LinkedIn.
A couple from me. Attend the social events that they have. So many, even my staff, choose not to come to the social event on a Friday afternoon. We have like Friday drinks or something, and they don't come. Crazy. That's when the best networking is done. That's when the connections happen. Asking questions, intelligent questions, is a big one. It shows that you're interested. It shows that you're engaged. And when you do that, people are going to be more prepared to invest in you. The other one is, and I like this if you're doing an internship, at the end of each week or the end of each fortnight or the end of each month, do a formal presentation, say at 4 o'clock on your last day, if you're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on what you've learned so far, and demonstrate to people that you're engaged and you're interested, and get a beautiful Canva template and say, this is what I've learned. And this is, and also put in the issues. This is what I've struggled with, because they need to know that and get people to talk about that. And you'll show that you're really engaged and people are really going to want to invest in you as well when you're doing that.
Absolutely. And I think on Yousef's point, I've had a few remote interns. They're absolutely fantastic. One thing as a manager that I always did was set up one-on-one meetings with those people, with a different person in the organization every week, so that they can network, so that they can get to know someone on a personal level. Even if they're in a different department, that's even better. You might discover there's a new thing you love doing. In my old job, I ended up working a lot with our VP of People and Culture. I got to do a lot of cross-collaborative things that other people in the marketing team didn't do. But if your manager doesn't organize them for you, organize them yourself. You should have access to a shared calendar. If not, you can email them and ask for times. And even better, that shows so much initiative, and you're going to stand out so much by taking the time to go, hi, I know we've only really met in the team meetings, but you seem like a really, experienced, interesting person. I'd love just 15 minutes of your time on Friday afternoon to have a chat. People love sharing their experience. Like Yousef said, people love to help. And if you're like me, people love to talk. So take the initiative and book in meetings. There are lots of really creative ways that you can network remotely.
And show that you're human. Okay, now Leonie, who you can't see, I don't know if she wants to show herself. Tell us about your hobbies and the things that you like to do outside of work. People love it. Leonie, again, this is someone that we've never met, but has worked. She did an internship with us. She was so good that we just employed her. Leonie, who lives just out of Darwin. Where's Leonie? Leonie, tell us what you do. What is that game I've never heard of that you do, and what you are riding when you do it?
Well, I'm playing polo cross since I got to Australia, and I've just met a lot of amazing people in Darwin here who do lots of different things. Like there's some lawyers there's accountants, of course, and there's all sorts of different people who can just help you find a job in the end as well.
But polo cross, what does that involve?
Horses and rackets and balls and a lot of bruises.
So this young lady, you're from Germany, aren't you? I know you're Germanic.
Yes.
From Germany. So Leonie from Germany, right, lives outside of Darwin, and on the weekends she rides a horse with a big stick, with a little thing at the front, flicking balls at each other. Like, that is unbelievable. It's amazing. I dare say it's by being human and being vulnerable in a way and sharing these stories that's how you get to develop deep connections with people. Like, you may never remember Leonie's name, but you will remember that lady that you met that plays polo on horseback with a lacrosse ball or something or other. Like, incredible.
Totally agree with the human element, Dom. Leonie very quickly in her internship proved herself to be someone who was just absolutely amazing and that I was looking to employ after her internship. But it was after some of the team meetings when Leonie showed so much of her wonderful personality that I had a few people message me privately to say, please tell me we're hiring her because she's fantastic. So absolutely, being personable, being human is very important. Looks like we've had one more.
Thanks, Leonie. Who said that the Germans are really serious? You're not always serious. And
I'm not German, though.
For those in Victoria too, seriously, if you're an international student and you haven't chosen an AFL side, man, you don't deserve to get a job. Seriously. Football is our religion, okay? The MCG is our church. I don't care if you think the game is ridiculous, and it is, by the way. Pick a side, because you've got to be able to speak with people in Melbourne about football, even make fun of it. I know a lot of international students, all they do is actually make fun of it, how silly a game it is, and it is. But Victorians love that, and you will be remembered and you will be remarked upon. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I know we're coming towards the end of our time. Yousef, do you have anything you want to end on? And if you want to give people a little bit of a pitch as well about GradShip, I want to make sure you get the opportunity to do that too.
Yeah, thank you. I think just capping on everything we've said, right? So I want to just emphasize that you should embrace your journey, right? So someone like myself, I graduated without knowing the knowledge I have now, obviously a few years in, and I still find a job, right? And many of you and your colleagues and international students could find a job before they graduate. As soon as they graduate, wait 6 months or a year, still find a job. Just embrace the journey. Don't get into that comparison. Oh, this person did that, this person did that, because no one's going through what you're going through. So everyone has a unique story to tell. So keep going, because one day you will be in our position speaking about your story to an audience and they'll be inspired. So just embracing the journey and keep going. About GradShip, as I mentioned, we do a lot of employability workshops, a lot of webinars. Obviously now in lockdown, so it's all online, but connect with me on LinkedIn, go to GradShip website, know more about us. It's basically that. And while I'm here, if you haven't already, get your copy. That was GradGate. That everything we mentioned today is pretty much covered there. Speaks all about employability, how you can make yourself stand out as a student and a recent graduate.
Thanks, Yousef. And definitely check out the book. I have only heard amazing things about GradGate. So definitely go out, check it out. And Leonie's also put the link to GradShip's website in the chat as well. So make sure you check that out as well. So I think, unless there's anything you want to say quickly, Dom.
Well, only that, thank you so much, Yousef, for coming along, Leonie joining us, Anya for hosting this, and a big, big, big shout out to Study Melbourne for putting these things on. I think I think it's just brilliant to give students a little bit more education on what they can do to make themselves employable. Please check out Study Melbourne's website. They offer tremendous services. If you're struggling to cope, please go and speak to them. It is a difficult time. We need to look out for one another. Remember, everything that Study Melbourne does is free. So, big shout out to them, and thank you very much for sponsoring this event.
Absolutely. And Leonie's also put this link in the chat, but we've got another webinar coming up in 3 weeks. And we're going to be talking with some people from Jobs Precincts and Regions Victoria about the new skilled migrant visa and how you can seize that opportunity. So that'll be a very interesting one. Make sure you sign up and come along to that as well. Thank you so much, Dom and Yousef, and especially Yousef, for coming along today and sharing your amazing insights and stories and telling us about all the things that you're doing. Thank you for Study Melbourne for making this possible, and thank you everyone for coming along. Make sure you check out GradShip, make sure you check out Career Catalyst and all the free services we offer, and we'll see you next time. It's been fabulous.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the great questions too, everyone. See ya.